The deadline has come and passed, and your boys were active. Welcome to episode 17 of Blue Truth, New York Rangers talk with myself, Brian Attard. I'm back. You've probably not seen my face in quite some time. For those of you who know, I was studying for and hopefully passing the CFP exam. I'm not going to know for 6 weeks. You know, I guess that's a good thing and a bad thing in a way that I don't know if I failed or not. So we'll find out. We'll get excited. But today was the deadline, and the Rangers were very active. Got comments coming in. Frankie, how are you? Alec, no dumb moves by jury today. Good day just based on that. Well, we'll talk about that. Chris, what's up, brother? How are you? Sir, Justin Thomas, how are you? Michael, let's go. It's good to see some of the old names that were watching the show religiously when I was doing them on at least a weekly or bi-weekly basis. So we'll see how it goes. But again, today is the NHL Trade Deadline. And, you know, listen, we're going to break down the moves today. You know, I think it was an interesting day. I think for the people who were looking for how about now? Sorry, technology. See if that helps. I thought this stupid thing. I haven't been on in forever, so I think we're okay there. I think it'd be perfect. Sorry about that. That's technology. Anyway, look, again, the conditions, as I mentioned, I'm not sure if you everybody heard that. So, obviously, again, The 2 becomes a 1 if the Rangers get to the third round. Second one becomes it's whatever option that the Jets choose. So again, that second becomes a first if the Rangers get to the conference finals. The other second becomes whatever the Jets want to do, whether they want it this year, they want it next year. They control that. Well, you know, we've been talking about centers on this team, talking about guys that can win faceoffs. And listen, Andrew Copp is a plus faceoff guy. I believe he's 53% career faceoff guy, effective penalty killer, high energy type player, transition guy, 27 years old, 6'1", 13 goals, 22 assists in 56 games. It is a low risk move. They also did give up Morgan Barron. I'm not inherently in love with that, but you got to give to get. This could be a piece that the Rangers extend, depending what happens with Ryan Strome. But this is a middle six center, preferably a third line center, or can play wing, depending on what you do with Hedl. So you have options there. And I think that that's probably, if you could summarize today for the Rangers, is they gave themselves options. Depth is not really an issue for this team right now, because that bottom six, you know, Gallant can put a lot of people in there. It doesn't necessarily have to be a Johnny Brodzinski. It doesn't necessarily have to be, you know, a Dryden Hunt, who I think is, he goes back and forth with me, but not a second line guy, shouldn't be a second line guy. He has been a second line guy on this team for a while. That's because the right wing situation was a disaster. But Andrew Copp, I think, was the biggest, most name deal of the day, but that's not all that the Rangers did today. Rangers also acquire winger Tyler Motte from the Vancouver Canucks in exchange for a 4th round pick in 2023. So not this year's draft, but next year's draft. Tyler Motte, again, bottom 6 guy, 27 years old, 5'10", 7 goals, 8 assists in 49 games. He's willing to block shots, sacrifice his body. He's a dump and chase kind of guy. You get a PK guy, gives the Rangers options there. Effective forecheck guy. So, you know, I do like that move as well. Obviously cost a lot less than bringing in Copp did. Frankie said Drury sucks. Well, tell me why, Frankie. What were you looking for that you say Drury sucks? What move would you say didn't happen where you would not be posting that today? Larry Jepson, bottom 6 guy, though. Absolutely. We're going to talk about this once we get through all the moves as to how this roster is kind of shaping out now. Peter, my brother, solid moves. Hate losing Barron. Had to sweeten their return. They were up against 3 other teams. I think he gets signed. Might let Strome walk. Well, again, options. Is Andrew Copp a stereotypical second line center? No, probably not. Could he play that? Probably, if you need him to. I don't think the team is better without Ryan Strome, which, you know, I've been a very big advocate of moving Ryan Strome. I don't know that you can now. See what the cap holds. But he is a free agent at the end of the year, as is Motte. You know, none of these guys have any terms. So it's not as if they lock themselves into any sort of money that will be a problem for them in the future, when, again, they're going to have less cap to work with. Hank and Dichter, review and preview. Met him at the Garden a couple of times as of late. Good to see him on the show. Ryan Eaton, would you like to see Kessel over anything else done today? I kind of thought in my mind that Kessel was a fait accompli, and actually, it's actually kind of stupid that he wasn't traded at all, because I'm pretty sure, now you're going to make me look, that he's a pending unrestricted free agent, which means that for the Coyotes to keep him, I think, goes further into the malfeasance of that organization. He is a pending UFA, so he's going to walk for nothing. I don't, that doesn't make any sense. I mean, the Rangers could have easily taken that full contract. They had cap space, out the ass, frankly. So it didn't really, I was very surprised he did not get moved. Would I have liked to see him? Again, it depends what you're looking to get. He's not the Phil Kessel that he used to be. And the question then becomes, if Kakko takes that spot back on the second line, where do you put him? Is he really a third line winger? I mean, at his point in his career, look, he's 34. Frankie, Kravtsov and Georgiev should have been traded. I agree. Strome too should have been moved. Well, here's the problem with that. And I don't want to necessarily jump into this right now, Frankie. We're going to, once we get through all the deals, as to how the roster is currently structured. But the reason they couldn't move Strome is the reason Buchnevich got traded earlier. And I'll tell you why in a second. Ryan, do you think Drury tried to move Georgiev, was not getting anything for him? No, I think that they made a conscious decision that they were going to trade him in the offseason. You remember He's an RFA. They own his rights. So if nothing came in to blow you away, you need a backup goaltender. If something were to happen to Igor, look, I'm not a big Georgiev guy. Great game against Carolina, which we'll touch on, but you got to be blown away. To make a move, I mean, was anybody offering a first-round pick? Clearly not. If somebody did, he'd have gotten moved. Do you make a move for the sake of getting moved? I mean, you know. Dan Baker, who I know is a Flyer guy, you guys are making moves, sure up spots in the line that need to work going into the playoffs, and with Florida looking really good, you need to do these type of moves. I didn't have a lot of issue with anything that they did today. Again, these are role players. And Dan, you are a Flyers fan, so you bring up your team. The Rangers made a deal with the Flyers. Justin Braun, defenseman from the Flyers, for a third-round pick in 2023. It was believed that the asking price was a second-round pick, so good by Christopher Drury for getting this defenseman for just a third. He is 35 years old. He is 6'2", so he does bring some size, as does Copp, for that matter. Of note, he was a +3, and I'm not a plus-minus guy by any stretch, but this is just notable to me. He was a +3 on a team that's -58 in goal differential. So, he's not necessarily a guy who's out there, on the ice for these goals. So, take that for what it's worth. And really, once he left San Jose, their defense struggled mightily after that. So, again, role guy, bottom pair guy, but he can play either side. So, this can work for you one of two ways. Look, if you don't think that Braden Schneider is ready for the limelight of the playoffs and the postseason run, Braun can play that spot. If you're really sick and tired of seeing Patrick Nemeth, Braun can play that spot. This is a bottom pair guy. And it's not even a shot against Schneider, who I think has played really well in the role that they've asked him to play. But the playoffs are a different game, which we're going to touch on. So depth guy, maybe doesn't play every game, but again, he brings you a little bit more of a physical element on the back end. Not that Schneider does not. Veteran player, been on a cup run, or at least a long run with the Sharks. So defensive depth is never a bad thing to acquire, and the price was right. Again, if that's a second, I hate it. For a third, whatever. I live with that. One thing, again, the Rangers did not move their first round pick today. So that, to me, frankly, was mighty surprising. I think you might have seen that if they could get a deal done for Rickard Rakell. It didn't happen. That's okay. So that might be something that they do later for a player next year. I don't know. I'm not convinced they make that pick, but I was surprised that it wasn't dealt today. Chris Reistetter, added key role players are giving up too much. Completely agree. Nobody off the roster. Barron has not been playing. Whether you're a fan of that or not, Barron has not been playing. Julian Narduzzi, nothing flashy, but bottom six solidifying moves. I'm going to wait and see before passing judgment. Again, I don't think you can really be too upset, with any of this. Ryan Eaton, thanks for responding. Pleasure, brother. Thanks for watching the show today. Joe Danzo, how could they not get Rakell what they gave up for Copp? Well, the deal that Pittsburgh sent out for Rakell, it wasn't light. If that was the price it was going to take, I don't necessarily know that it was the right thing to do. And again, not that I didn't like Rakell, but he's not like he hasn't been lighting the world on fire either. He'll do well in Pittsburgh, which is their very likely first-round opponent. That's kind of annoying. I'm not, again, everything's price dependent. Okay, I'll move anybody on this team in the right deal for the most part. You can't fall in love with players. I mean, if the right deal comes along, that's a deal you have to take. If you're going to get overpaid for someone, you are dumb not to take that overpayment. Peter, no way you give Georgie away for a Ford. That's all they would have gotten. And I don't necessarily, again, it has to be the right fit. It definitely had to be the right fit. So neither here nor there. I'm not upset by any stretch that's the way that went. Frankie, do you think they were really shopping or got offers for Lafreniere and Kakko? Well, do I think they were shopping them? No. Do I think teams called and asked them questions? Sure. I think teams call and ask all kinds of stuff. I mean, Wayne Gretzky was traded. Hey, that Fox guy, what do you guys want for him? More than you got, bud, but thanks for calling. Click. The Rangers are not actively shopping these players, so I don't think that. I know the fourth period brought up Lafreniere. Look, Larry Brooks is back to being as connected as anybody who said that's a complete farce. I'm inclined to believe him. If the Rangers were trying to identify what the fan base could take by floating Lafreniere's name out, again, you'd have to be elite level dumb to make a move like that. And look, our fan base, don't get me started. It's the second year in the league. Kid's 20 years old. Like, it's on the first line. Playing is not even his natural wing. So, again, neither here nor there. Braun gives defensive depth. I agree. I don't think anybody wanted Julien Gauthier. I think the Rangers don't want Julien Gauthier. He is not really. He's not long for this team. Not even close. But yeah, I didn't dislike the Braun trade. I mean, again, it was all cost. Under the radar trade, the Rangers acquired Nick Merkley from the Sharks for New York native Anthony Bitetto. I'm sure Anthony's not really too thrilled with being traded out of the Rangers organization, but Nick Merkley was a first-round pick of, I think, Arizona. I'm looking at this right now, but I know he was a first-round pick. I know he's with the Sharks for quite some time. He actually played with the Devils for a little bit. Look, depth player. I mean, he's 24 years old, young guy. So, I mean, Bitetto wasn't going to be on this team, obviously. So, I'm not really. I mean, Anthony Bitetto, right? So whatever. I mean, again, winger depth. I'm fine with that. No worries there. But yeah, Nick Merkley was. He's moved around a little bit. He is a right winger. He was, again, looking for the pick. He was the 30th overall pick in 2015 by Arizona. Ended up with the Sharks. Ended up with the Devils. I don't think anybody's upset about this. I mean, if you're upset about it, I don't even know. I mean, Anthony Bitetto's family's upset about it. I don't think we're upset about it. Julian says Merkley was a nutcase and not that skilled. Yeah, well, I mean, low risk, high reward, right? If he's a nutcase, what do he cost you, Anthony Bitetto? Okay. All day. Julian, I'll take those scratch-off tickets all day long, bro. If you turn him into something, awesome. If you don't, oh well. You didn't lose anything. And then I would be remiss to not discuss Frank Vetrano, who was brought in not that long ago for a 2022 fourth-round pick. He's 28, 5'11". He's played on the second line so far with Panarin and Strome, probably where he is until Kakko comes back. 1 goal in 3 games with the Rangers, the empty netter against Carolina. 11 goals, 9 assists in 20 games. The rest of this season. So he originally with Boston, they got him from Florida. Florida just needed to dump, a contract and a spot there. So, again, Rangers end up with 4 trades today. One of the more active teams at the deadline today, and stuff is still coming through. I know Max Domi ended up in Carolina. That was a late move there, but neither here nor there. Active day, again, for the people who, we're talking about, why didn't they go big game hunting? Again, I am mildly surprised that they didn't really use all this cap space as an intermediary. Florida did that in one of the deals today. I think it was the Max Domi deal. But, you can't take it with you. And they were Rangers could have taken anybody. They were the one team that didn't have to worry about a third-party broker or anything like that. So I think that, the prices were high. And if you look at some of the other deals that were made, as I change the ticker here to notable non-Ranger deals, look, you look back to the deal that brought Brandon Hagel to Tampa Bay. There was 2 number 1 picks in that deal. It's a lot. And some of these deals that these teams made where they gave up a lot. And I don't know if the Rangers were in a spot that they had to go all in. I don't know that this was the year to do it. Larry Jepson, he had a couple wow moments, wasn't really that solid. No loss him being traded, obviously referring to Bitetto. Eddie Reyes, what's up, man? Let's go Rangers. I actually ran into Eddie in a Best Buy in South Jersey, of all places, by the way. Which is kind of cool, kind of funny story there. Chris Reiser, NHL and Sirius was raving about the Rangers. Emily Kaplan, the ESPN writer, was asked who her favorite team was of what they did today. So she loved what the Rangers did. And I think that kind of talks about, where does this leave the Rangers now? And, here's the thing, right? The top 5 forwards on this team, at least the healthy forwards, you know who they are. You don't need me to tell you who the top 5 forwards are on this team. You have one spot that is open on the second line, which will be filled by Capo Caco when he's back from injury. So we can, have consternation about, should the Rangers be going after big names, this guy, that guy, linked to this. Where are they going to play? We talked about, and I think it was Frankie that brought it up as to, would you move a guy like Strome? The reason that you don't move a guy like Strome is what is that telling your roster and your fan base as you are on the cusp of getting back into the postseason? This is the exact reason why they did not wait to move Buchnevich. We can have a discussion all day if that was the good thing to do. Buchnevich has broken out in St. Louis. I can't argue with that. Could the Rangers use him right now? Abso-friggin-lutely. But they made that move because they knew when it came to today, you're either going to lose a player for nothing if you can't sign them, or you're going to trade them. And you really do not want to appear to be selling on deadline day. Making the playoffs here was not a mandate, but let me be the first to tell you this. Season ticket holders have already gotten emails saying, listen, if we don't make the playoffs, we're not going to raise your ticket prices, which is really easy to say when you're almost pretty much locked into a playoff spot. Like, with 19 games to go, you're making the playoffs. You can expect higher ticket prices next year. And, let's talk about it. In the Eastern Conference, there are 8 teams that are all really good hockey teams. In our own division, we got us, we got Carolina, we got Pittsburgh, we got Washington. On the other side, you got Florida, Tampa Bay, Toronto, and Boston. 4 of those teams are going to be out after the first round. The East is nuclear war. So, was there a move you could have done to say, hey, that we need to do this to get over the top? In all likelihood, unless you get up into first place, or Pittsburgh gets up into first place, or Washington catches Pittsburgh or the Rangers, you were going to play Pittsburgh in round 1. That is not an easy matchup. Not at all. And I would be lying to you if I said I would be overly surprised if the Rangers lose that series. I would not be overly surprised if the Rangers lose that series. You want to talk about playoff experience, whatever. Team hasn't been there. Pittsburgh has. Now, again, they've lost in the first round the last couple of years, so that's a team that has a monkey on their back. But that's a team with star power all over the place. So, if we're talking 6 weeks from now and the Rangers are out in the first round, are we going to be overly upset? I'm not going to be overly upset. I'm not going to be in love with it. I'm going to obviously root for them to win the whole damn thing. But, realistically, you think back to what you've seen, right? So I go back to the Carolina game because I was watching it last night and I didn't know what the hell I was watching because they got horrifically outplayed last night. Okay. You do not need to be an advanced stat guy to have watched that game to know Carolina dominated them last night. Okay. The Rangers got outshot 44-18. They out-hit Carolina 39-16. And what do we say about what's probably happening if you're out-hitting the other team? It means they have the puck and you don't, because if you had the puck, you wouldn't be hitting someone. Last night, God bless Alex Georgiev. Great game by him. Probably the best game he's played as a Ranger because they were under siege the entire night. You can say, maybe the Rangers played a better defensive game and they kind of kept those, shots to be lower quality. I'm not going to dispute that. I'll give him credit there. But at the end of the day, that's a lot of shots on goal. That's 44 shots on goal. You only got 18. Now, you made the most of the 18. Again, the point I'm trying to make to you is this is not going to be the best iteration of the Rangers. So am I surprised that they didn't make a big move today? No, not at all. Did they make moves that I thought said to the roster, we want to help you? Absolutely. And I think that was the right thing to do. Again, the only player you lost that's currently on the team is Morgan Barron. And he was a black ace. He wasn't even playing. So it was fine. I have nothing to, no complaints. These days always make me nervous because I'm always worried that someone's going to get in a horrible deal that we've seen over aggressive Ranger teams go out and make these big deals that end up haunting them later. They didn't do that today. They didn't do that at all. Comments coming in here. Let's see here. Kevin, I agree with not going all in this year. I'm not sure it would have been a smart move. I agree. I don't think that they're there yet. It could be an interesting offseason depending how they do. But I don't think this is the year to do it. Peter says Cats in a better position to go all in. I mean, again, they're a team searching for relevance. Nobody goes to see them down there. And that's a fantastic hockey team. Adding Claude Giroux. Really nice move for them. And we'll talk about that briefly. Chris Reistatter, possible deep run to get experience. Frankie, so many rumors about the trading JT Miller and Besser. They didn't even do a thing. Well, look, JT Miller's under contract for another year. So Vancouver was not necessarily in a rush to move him anywhere. They would have had to be bowled over to make a move like that. And I guess that they weren't. And if you're looking for multiple picks and high-level prospects for a player, like these teams are in a cap league, these teams are not willing to give that up. And that's another thing too. If you want to talk about Brandon Hagel and the deal to Tampa and why Tampa overpaid, it's because this kid is locked up for at least, I think, another 2 years at this low number. And cap space matters. We're going to find out just how much cap space matters in the very near future. It doesn't matter right now. It's going to matter very, very, very quickly. Garth Patrick, who I know is a Lightning fan, thoughts on Giroux to Florida. Too early to be hyped, but they've got a great squad. That division's brutal. That division's brutal. And you look, I have no problem with them making the move that they did. They've been aggressive. I didn't like the Ben Sherratt trade for them. I thought that was a little too much for a guy like him. Claude will help that team. Claude will be a top 6 winger on that team, can play a little center for you. He's out of hell in Philadelphia, so you should see a little bit of a renaissance from Claude Giroux. If you don't get that from him, then he just never had it. But I think he'll do well down in Florida. Peter, Butch deal was right, but they turn around and screw up on crowds to defeat the purpose. There is some truth to that, yes. I was advocating for Buchnevich to go all off season because I knew there is no future here. When you have Kakko and Kravtsov, again, we always project this out. You don't have the spot. They were not going to have Buchnevich be their third line winger. They just weren't going to do that. In fact, they found a way not to have Lafreniere or Kreider be their third line winger. They moved one to right wing because they put him in their top 6. The best players you're going to have. So, who knows what Kravtsov holds? It wasn't dealt today. Not surprised he wasn't dealt today. That's a summer move if you're going to see one at all. John Damiano, I love these moves. I kind of thought that you might. Chris Fallon, if the Rangers don't win a cup this season, a failure? Absolutely not. They're probably not going to win the Stanley Cup. It'd be great if they did, obviously, but no, I don't think so. They're ahead of schedule. So you can't necessarily be pedal to the metal all the time, because it's just not realistic. And again, 4 very good teams are going to lose in the first round of this Eastern playoffs. And it's wild how good the East is, especially compared to the West, where pretty much it's Colorado, Calgary, and everybody else. I don't think anybody else is coming out of that conference. I think it's Colorado's to lose for sure. Calgary may give them a run for their money, but Larry Jepson, yes, they did. We're fortunate that they won the game, going back to that Carolina game. Even go back to the Tampa game. I mean, they played better in that game, found a way to win. Look, goaltending is goaltending. I mean, the Rangers rely on special teams and goaltending to a very, very high degree. And that's my biggest fear for them. The Rangers scored 46 power play goals. That's good enough. It's 5th, but it's behind 4 teams. The 3 teams that have 47. Colorado's got 52. So the Rangers have 46 power play goals. Their total goals of any of these teams, they score the least amount of goals per game. Did you know the Rangers actually score a little bit less per game than New Jersey? That's my biggest fear for this team, is you rely on your power play a lot. And as we know, in the postseason, they swallow the whistles. You're not going to get the power plays you're getting now. And that's why I look at them and say, look, yeah, Igor Shesterkin's the best goaltender in the league. I'm not have any qualms saying that. He should win the Vezina, should win the Hart, if you ask my opinion. Where the hell is this team without Igor Shesterkin? But at the same time, you need to give some run support. And if they can only say that they're just not good at 5, they're not good enough at 5-on-5. And I don't know how you solve that, because you're not going to blow up your top 6. I mean, pending Ryan Strome, but like, this is your top 6. And I'm putting Kakko in there as well. Like, that's who you are. So if you continue to lose battles 5-on-5, continue to get outshot, yes, you are relying on your goaltender to be excellent, and he is. But we've seen that movie before. We lived that from 2006 to 2017. So it got us where it got us. Chris says, look at Montreal last year. Price carried them. Anything can happen. Yeah, anything can happen. I'm not disagreeing with that. But, again, you can hit 19 at a blackjack table. You might get a 2. It doesn't mean it's highly likely. I think it is very, very difficult to continue. If you got Carolina in a playoff series and you get games like we saw last night, you can't realistically and honestly expect the Rangers to win 2 games in that series. Carolina's very good. They're very good. You can't be dominated like that and expect to win games in the postseason. You will get Carolina's best effort in the postseason. And last night is going to be a good reason why. It wasn't even your starting goalie. Look, I'm not going to be upset about taking 2 points. Not going to be upset about taking 4 points in 2 games against 2 very good teams. But, I mean, let's keep it real here. You can't. You can't do that. Chris, Georgie needed that for confidence going into the playoffs. Hopefully you don't see him in the playoffs. God forbid. Kevin, hot goaltending and steady defensive play could take them deep. Comment spot on for last night's game. They did luck out in that win. Oh, absolutely. And that's what I'm saying here is, we've got 19 games left. So they are what they are. But that's a concern because if you continually cannot carry play at even strength and you continually rely on the man advantage to put the puck in the net, that's not a formula for playoff success. Do you remember, of course you remember, guys, the 2012 team that every time the other team scored the first goal, we thought we lost, and we had the best goalie in the world, Henrik Lundqvist, but if it was 1-0, I mean, that pop gun offense, I mean, they were down to Ottawa in the first round. They were down to Washington in the second round. They lost to a pretty average Devils team in the third round because they couldn't score goals. This team is too talented not to score goals. They got to figure that out. They need to be better at 5-on-5 because you're not going to get those. You're not going to get the power plays you're getting now when the calendar turns to postseason. Frankie, surprised Edmonton didn't do much. They give up so many goals. I mean, what are you going to do? Guys aren't available. That's what happens when you don't really draft enough defensemen and really invest in your back end. The goaltending is its own issue. Peter, bottom line, 3 playoff type statement games about a Rangers in 4 days after a long travel. 4 points, 3 goals against. Good teams do find a way to win. The Rangers did that. Yes, they do. I'm not here to be upset that they won those games by any stretch. No, I'm not. But I'm also a realist. You can't play like that. You can't get into a series with a good team, continually get dominated at 5-on-5, hope that you get calls, and just hope your goalie bails you out. I mean, I feel like we did that. We saw this movie before. I don't know. Like, I mean, Peter, I'll let you make the comment. I'm going through the comments here, trying to get everything. And I mean, you tell me if the Rangers found a way to get by Pittsburgh in round 1, and the Rangers get Carolina in round 2, what is your confidence level going into that series? Because I would be Carolina in 5. If they got by Pittsburgh, which I am not convinced that they would get by Pittsburgh. They have a better shot. Pittsburgh tends to crumple into itself in the playoffs. We saw it the last couple of years against the Islanders especially. So that can happen. But it's just not a solid strategy, in my opinion. Kevin, Florida fleeced the Flyers. Yes, the Flyers not get enough for Claude Giroux. They did not get enough for Claude Giroux. Absolutely not. Hagel is mostly a cap space move, but still a promising young guy who's cheap, hoping he pans out for us. Yeah, sure. It's a lot to give up, though, Garth, and I think it's because of his low figure. Patrick Parker, this team's only going to go as Shesterkin carries them. No question about it. Matt Durres, I really wanted Domi, a little upset about it. I don't think that's at all what it was. No, Chris, it's not necessarily a failure. If you don't win, you lose. And every team that doesn't win the cup is going to lose this year. But this was not a year that the Rangers were supposed to be anywhere near where they were. So it's not a failure. It's just not a success. You can't win the Stanley Cup every year. That's not, you should aim to when you're there to do it. The Rangers are just, they haven't even opened their window yet. So again, that would be respectfully you taking a different approach to what I'm saying here. This is a team that is one of the youngest teams in the league. They should not be here right now. The fact that they are, frankly, is the result of extremely elite goaltending because the kids aren't there yet. They will be. This is where the Rangers should have been 2 years from now. They're that far ahead. I can't be upset about that. And I'm willing to start moving out draft picks because I think that they're fine. They've gotten the system over that. Mike, appreciate it, brother. I'll be at the Garden a couple more times. I'm not sure what you're going to be doing there. Frankie, we got lucky. we kept hitting 20 and catching aces. That's what happened. Garth Patrick smoked in cup finals. Price only got them so far, and they made it out of I mean, that's last year was a weird year. Again, I mean, but we saw that with Lundqvist. I mean, those Ranger teams, we can go back and look at how good those teams were. They really weren't very good. Lundqvist was great. They were okay. Yeah. Kevin, out of the last 19, Georgiev plays what, 4 games? I'd have to go look at the amount of back-to-backs. I know Gerard Gallant, it's Gallant, by the way. We all learned that. Doesn't like to play the same goalie in back-to-back. So I have to go look at the schedule and see what that looks like. But you're probably not far off. I mean, I think that's probably what you're going to get. But again, it's one of those things where if Igor goes down, I mean, the season would just be over. I mean, the season will be over anyway. Don't get me wrong. But at least you get a puncher's chance if you have Georgiev over a Kincaid, for example. Ricardo Raquel did go to Pittsburgh. We'll probably see him in round 1. Joe Danza, last night's play will not fly in a 7-game series. Absolutely not. No question about it. The Islanders didn't even do a trade. You know what's funny? The Islanders actually re-signed Zach Parise and Cal Clutterbuck because they're not old enough. You gotta, I'm sorry. Maybe they'll re-sign Chara. It's cool, you can go to a game at UBS Arena for $6, but they'll go spend a couple $100 to go to a game at the Garden. Scumbags. Peter, I say it again, for us to be cup contenders, Kakko and Laffy have to arrive and take their game to the next level. What are the chances Laffy learns to play center? I think they've tried that. I don't foresee that. And again, we've talked about that on the show a lot. Is when they got their shot at the draft, it wasn't for them to take a center. It is what it is. Maybe, that's going to be something long-term they do need to address. But they are where they are right now. Again, it's going to be a really interesting offseason, no matter what happens, because if Strome prices himself out, I don't know who your second-line center is. Is Filipino your second-line center next year? Are you okay with that? I'm not okay with that. Henry, Hank, and Victor, I wouldn't be surprised if they somehow snuck out of a playoff series win. It's Carolina I'm worried about. That I agree they exceed a lot of expectations this year. But again, it's the goaltender. God forbid something happens to the goaltender. This is done. Look, they're a playoff team. We said before the year they're good enough to make the playoffs. I thought they would be a wild card team, possibly a 3 seed, probably a first round out. And as good as they've been, I'm not changing my view on that. I still think they're a first round out, and that's okay. Because you're not supposed to be here right now. A lot of things that have helped this team are the fact that the teams in the division that were good even 2 years ago, or relatively good 2 years ago, aren't good anymore. The Flyers are terrible, and they're going to be terrible for the foreseeable future. The Islanders, I've said, is smoke and mirrors, and they've been smoke and mirrors. And guess what? They ain't going to the playoffs this year, as I so adeptly predicted earlier on, that they would not be a playoff team. That was not me bashing the New York Islanders, although I am known to do that from time to time. That was my honest assessment of the fact that I don't like their roster. I think Matt Barzal is a very good hockey player. I think everybody else on that team stinks. So you can block shots all you want to. It doesn't necessarily work. You got to score some goals, which I'm trying to tell the Rangers is, yeah, your grit's great. You've done a very nice job of revamping your bottom 6, and that's wonderful. But your top 6 needs to put the puck in the net, even if they're not on the man advantage. It'd be great if you could do that. So, I don't know. Look, they're the second best power play in all of hockey. I mean, am I gonna apologize for that? Absolutely not. Is it a problem that you can't score at 5-on-5? Yes, it is. Is it a problem that you're getting dominated 5-on-5? Yes, it is. They're ninth in the penalty kill. Probably your goaltender. Your goaltender has the third best goals against in the league as a team, and they're first in save percentage. That's your goaltender. And Henrik even said, I believe the quote was, his technique's better than mine. It's wonderful. That bodes very well. I'm upset he's only signed for this year and 3 more. That'll be a future problem to figure out, but this kid's legit. Should win the Vezina. He's in the conversation for the Hart. But I don't know. Guys, tell me what you think. Am I being too negative? I don't think that I'm being too negative. I don't think that I am. Because we all watch the same games. We watched that game, and again, the standings are up right here. The Rangers are 3 points behind Carolina. Carolina's got a game in hand. They're exactly tied with Pittsburgh, and they got a game coming up at the end of this week, which will be very interesting. Look, they're in, okay? They're in the postseason. This is not even a question anymore. That's why these games don't necessarily matter a whole hell of a lot. It just depends who they're going to play. They need to stay the hell away from getting that wild card now, because if you end up playing, well, I guess it depends on who ends up with the number 1. I don't think they beat Carolina. I mean, if Carolina has a war type series in the first round that takes a lot out of them, and you get them wounded in round 2, okay, I can buy that. I think I said before the season, their absolute ceiling is the conference final, simply because I didn't think they would beat the teams in the Atlantic. And that wasn't even me thinking Florida would be this good. I thought Tampa would be good, as they always are, and they will continue to be for the foreseeable future. I thought that Boston would be better than they are. They've had some injuries to deal with, and Taylor Hall's kind of underperformed. And I thought Toronto would finally figure it out. Listen, Toronto could very easily lose again in the first round, which would be hilarious, by the way. I don't know. Like, I'm not. Look, I'm going to live and die the same way you guys will in the playoffs. The playoff hockey is just stress and nausea to me. I don't enjoy any of it until the game is over and you can breathe. But I mean, I'd be lying to you if I said, "Oh, this is they are ready to go on a run." They're ready to go on a run. I think this is okay. Look, the New York Rangers have the best goaltending in the conference. So if he takes over the game and they get anything offensively, yeah, they could go on a Cinderella run and win the whole goddamn thing. I'm not disputing that whatsoever. It's just not likely. You're asking for the perfect scenario. I don't think realistically as a fan you should do that. Of course we're going to root for them to win. That doesn't mean that you have to say, rah, 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 we got this all the way. I would love to see it more than anybody. I would cry my eyes out. It's just not. I don't see it. I don't personally see it. I would love to be totally wrong. 16-0. Sweep everybody. I'm not seeing that yet from this team. Larry, it has always been the goaltender. Yes, it has. Yes, it has. And that's what blows my mind, Larry, because I think you and I would agree on this. The talent level on the Rangers now dwarfs the talent level that Henrik had. If you go back and look at those teams, look at some of the players that were playing in big spots. Compared to Zibanejad and Panarin and Lafreniere, 41 goals for Chris Kreider. Where the hell did that come from? Adam Fox, top 5 defenseman in the league, and I'm being very, very conservative. It's probably higher than that. The Rangers didn't have any of that when Hank was there, but they got there. So if this talented group can figure it out at 5-on-5, things change. Now you're changing the status quo. I'm not there yet. Chris, I went to that game. I had posted a video of the goal that Kreider scored. It was very loud. It was very loud in that building, and it was awesome to hear. That game really pissed me off, and I'll bring it up now because you brought it up. Brutal missed call on an elbow to the head of Ryan Lindgren directly results in the Islander goal. And you know what? You could kind of tell because they came out guns blazing in that game. And in that first period, they were dominating for pretty much the whole first period. A lot of good shots, a lot of good scoring opportunities. Ilya Sorokin, really, really good. I think he's fantastic. So Full marks to him. Played great. But when you dominate play like that and you don't score and get that lead, you are just leaving the door wide open for a quick momentum change and it goes the other way. Happens all the time. It kind of happened to Carolina last night. So you have to make them pay for letting you have that much offensive pressure. The Rangers didn't. The Islanders didn't do that to the Islanders. Carolina didn't do it to the Rangers. Peter, next trade deadline is our big splash. I have too many players to fill holes next year. Blais, if he signs, Will Cooley, Brennan Othman. Trade options are both Jones or Lundqvist, others with picks. How about this? We got out of today. And the only thing that they definitely gave up was Morgan Barron, right? So you didn't move Nils Lundqvist. You didn't move Braden Schneider. You didn't move Zach Jones. You didn't move Robertson. You didn't move any of your prized possessions. And that in and of itself is a win. Because he easily could have overpaid and he didn't. So the criticism of the Buchnevich trade is valid. It is fair. And I agree with you, all of you. I mean, I understand why. Return was not enough at the time. If Sammy Blais plays, do I feel differently? Still probably not. I know why they did it. Today, very low risk, very high type return moves to solidify where your team was at its weakest. Your top six is not changing. You are trying to find the right mix in that bottom six to help you. And look at what Tampa does every year. They get that really solid third line. If the Rangers end up with that third line of Copp and Goodrow and Hedl or fill in the spots, you have players to choose from now. That's great. That will help you in a playoff series. And their ability to, grit out some wins may be very, 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 very important against a team like Pittsburgh, who might shy away from it. They're not really a physical team. They haven't been in the playoffs anyway, and that's what beat them. We'll see where that goes. You have assets to move, which is kind of why I was surprised that they kept their first round pick. We'll see if they actually make that pick come the summer and the draft. Joe, thank you. I appreciate the kind words there. Kevin, it's guarded optimism, the bigger scheme of things. That's great. It's not necessarily guarded optimism, Kev. It's just that, I'm not. If you call this team, I don't know, the Phoenix Roadrunners, I don't know, something totally different, and you look at the group of players and you say, wow, they have very, very talented forwards in their top six. They're a very good power play. They don't really get a lot of done at 5-on-5. The defense is still young and up and coming. The goaltender is the best in the league, and that's a huge advantage. Bottom six, I think, is questionable. They added some guys to it. Call them not the New York Rangers and look at them objectively. And I think that you come to the same conclusion that I do, is if you go up against a team that can score better at 5-on-5 than you, that's going to be a problem. A team that can make you pay when you take penalties, that's a problem. Pittsburgh's got high-end talent. Carolina's got high-end talent. If they get Washington, they're beating Washington. I'm not worried about that. Pittsburgh scares me. Carolina, I think, is really good. I've thought Carolina was good for a very long time. And you're starting to see that more and more. They're another team. They're just the goaltending's the goaltending. Huge if. Could they beat a Colorado? Probably not. Listen, I thought Colorado was going to win last year, right? So what the hell do I know? I mean, Carolina lost to Vegas last year. Who might not get in this year? I mean, things happen. It's just what is the realistic outcome of these things? Colorado should, if they don't win now, I don't know when they're going to. At some point, you go to the well too many times, and you don't win. You don't end up getting it done. The best team doesn't always win in hockey. Playoff hockey is like triple witching Friday. If you're in the stock market game, you know that. Larry, like you said, they are ahead of schedule. They absolutely are. Now, where I will say the scary part is certain players on this team are ahead of schedule, but then you start looking at some of the ages on some of the other players and you say, well, that's concerning because Artemi's 30 and Kreider's 30 and Mika's 28 and Strome's 28 and Goodrow's 29 and Trouba's 28. So eventually the youth will kind of backfill that. But as far as this group, this might be their best shot to win it all until, because again, next year, Fox's number goes up from under $1 million to over $9 million. Mika's contract kicks in. So you're running into that cap problem. They're in a window. I just don't think that they're there yet. I would be lying to you if I said that they were there yet. Peter said that's why the jury didn't go all in. Yeah, I could not agree more. Larry said if he has those players, he'll win a cup at least, if not more. 100%. Put this roster on those Ranger teams. You got it. You absolutely got it. Larry Jepson, 2 calls on one's advantage. Yeah, the refereeing in the Islander game was not to my liking. Put it to you that way. Chris, Reeves hit on Char was great. Yes, it was. That was fun. That was fun. Fans fall in love with players. What was JT doing at Kakko or Laffy's age? The people that are looking, when are these guys going to break out? The hell were you doing at 20? I mean, I don't know. Everybody's like, we need to see this now. I'm very comfortable with their development. Do I think, would I like to see more from Kakko by now? Maybe, but am I willing to throw in the towel? No. Am I going to sell an asset low? No. If anything, actually, in a weird way, it actually helps them because he's not going to require a huge deal on his upcoming contract. You can bridge him and be fine. Like, I'm fine with that. You can even give him long-term, keep that cap number down. Look at what Jesperi Kotkaniemi just got in Carolina. 8 years, like it's under 5. Now, I don't think that Kakko signs for that, but my point is he hasn't blown up. That will help you in a contract. And you're going to need the help on the contract because if you intend to keep this team together longer term, either somebody's got to go or you just can't. I mean, it's numbers, pandemic brought us Lafreniere and that's wonderful. But again, this cap ain't moving up that much. So you go ahead and you sign a Panarin and a Trouba to these big money deals, assuming that the cap's going to do a lot of this. And then it flattens out and you're like, oh, well, that was not what we expected, of course. So, Hank, got to run. Good seeing you, bub. Kevin as well. Good seeing you. Thank you very much for being a part of the show today. Obviously, we appreciate that. Again, I haven't been on in a while. I intend to be on a little bit more often now as we get into the playoffs and everything. I have a lot more free time, at least for right now. So we'll see what the future holds. Joe Danzo at 20, I was getting drunk and stuff. Yeah, I mean, everybody wants the sugar buzz. Everybody wants the immediacy. Everybody's not patient. Everybody's like, this is what I want to win right now. This is not the NFL. Kids do not come in and take starting spots. Quinn said this, like you can't, usually guys that go top of drafts go to bad teams. Rangers not a bad team. They were not a bad team. A lot of offensive talent. So you're not going to get those you have to earn those premium minutes in the top 6, which I'm fine with. I would not just give it to anybody. Comments coming in, Peter here. Bing on the deals. Thank you. We definitely we're eye to eye in a lot. I know from the comments that have come in. Larry, Reeves' acquisition has brought team unity back in identity. I love when Corey Perry and Reeves were arguing with each other when they fought Maroon. Yeah, I mean, look, I think it was we had just finished a show right as that news broke because perfect timing, right? And it was the most predictable thing that they would go out and sign a guy like that. What they've done today, though, is maybe Reeves doesn't play all the playoff games. Maybe none at all. I don't know. But when you bring in guys like Copp and Motte, you're going to have to open up spots for these guys. You're going to get Rooney back at some point. You're going to get Kakko back at some point. You really only moved Morgan Barron, who wasn't on the roster. So, there's going to be a lot of guys wearing suits and ties that are not going to see the ice as we get closer and closer to the postseason. Is that Julian Gauthier? Yeah, probably. If Goodrow ends up on the third, on the fourth line, okay, whatever. Do the best that you can for your roster. But if you end up with a third line now of some permutation of Copp, Hedl, and Goodrow, okay, that's fine. If I don't know where Dryden Hunt plays now. Dryden Hunt might be in a suit. Dryden Hunt may get some time on the fourth line, maybe. Johnny Brodzinski's probably not long for this team now. Is what it is. He's played well in little spurts. I mean, what do you expect from the guy's fourth line player? But again, as things start moving towards the postseason, guys that have spots right now are you're just not going to see them. So we'll be wrapping up here for today in just a moment or two. But again, I want to thank everybody for watching the show. This is a bit of something I always wanted to do because, again, I haven't been on now in probably, wow, I don't remember the exact date, but as I said at the start of the show, I was studying for my certified financial planner designation, took the exam, the results I don't get for 6 weeks. It was very, very difficult. I don't recommend it. Don't do it. If you're thinking about it, don't do it. But again, I'll find out if I passed or not. Hopefully I did. If not, I'll take it again in the summertime. It's going to be really close, I think, one way or another. It was a very, very difficult test, but neither here nor there. I have a little more free time now. We're getting into the crux, the stretch run of the season. Look, the Rangers are a playoff team. We know this. This is not one of those years where, they're looking down and they have to win, 13 of 20 to get in, or you're scoreboard watching. They're in. There is a haves and a have-nots in the Eastern Conference, and they're firmly in the haves. They're in. The question now is positioning and who do you play? Their best realistic first-round matchup is Washington. I would love to play Washington. Other than that, I think you're probably going to see Pittsburgh. And I don't know that is great. They could easily lose to Pittsburgh. Wouldn't shock me. Shouldn't shock you. We'll be upset about it. And we'll be like, okay. They got their taste. They'll be better next year. Again, you're moving into year 3 of Alexi Lafreniere next year. Really, Kakko still has not played a full season. Truth be told. So things will get better and better. I am not going to lose my mind if they lose in the first round. If they win, wonderful. But it's murderer's row. Let's just say you get by and it's Pittsburgh. Okay. Then you probably got Carolina. You just saw them play Carolina last night, and Carolina took it to them pretty handily. Let's say you get by Carolina. Then you're going to end up with either Florida, Tampa, Boston, or Toronto. And these are all very good teams. The Eastern playoffs are unbelievable. The teams, there is, again, you're in or you're out. Everybody's very, very good. I don't know. I'm not going to say, oh my God, they need to go on a run this year. Maybe they do. They have the goaltending to do it. I'm looking forward to Friday night. I think it's Friday night's game against Pittsburgh because it was a 1-0 game in Pittsburgh a couple weeks ago. It played well enough. I mean, it's just a 1-0 game. You know, whatever. I don't expect Pittsburgh to run away with it by any stretch. But like I said, okay, I'll give you this. Let's say that you play Pittsburgh. They are the least penalized team in the league. Why? Draw your own conclusions. But they're the least penalized team in the league. So layer that over top of the whistles get swallowed in the playoffs. You might get 1 or 2 power play opportunities in a game. You better be efficient. It's not laying itself out for a deep run. And that's okay. No worries. We're good. The moves today, I will say, again, just to kind of bring it all together, I feel as though they're very low risk, very high return type moves to solidify your bottom 6 and your bottom pair defense. And who knows, if Andrew Copp really likes New York, maybe he signs for a deal because he wants to be here. And all of a sudden your third line center, maybe you figure it out. Who knows? He wasn't really coming off a cheap deal right now. Justin Braun's not going to get re-signed. Tyler Motte, okay. You didn't give up a lot to acquire these guys, so it's not as if you are now, oh, well, we better sign them to make up for the fact that we gave up so much. None of that is real with anything they did today. Very, very low risk moves. They did not go swing for home runs, and that was probably the exact right thing to do. So I'm going to give Chris Drury all the credit in the world for that. I will be on tomorrow night on the Sports Box, which is the BlueTruth is powered by the Sports Box. So check it out on Facebook. We'll be doing 8:30. We'll be doing a kind of a roundtable review of the whole deadline. There'll be some Flyer fans on there as well. You can come yell at them. That's fine. I do the same. But trying to get maybe a Pittsburgh fan, Lightning fan. We'll try to get a nice cross section of people to kind of review some of the deals that were made today, and what the future is going to look like and what the playoffs are going to look like. So that'll be at 8:30 p.m. Tomorrow night, which is Tuesday the 22nd, streaming live on the Sports Box Facebook page at Sports Box Show if you're looking for that. If you're just seeing me for the first time, hey, thanks for the time you spent with me today. I love talking Rangers hockey. I know you do too. That's why you're here. Follow this Facebook page. We're We're on Twitter. I haven't really been as active on Twitter, as you can probably imagine, but I have the Twitter there, the YouTube channel, all the replays are going to go there. So we obviously appreciate all the support. We have a lot of fun. Larry Jepson, just get playoff appearance for the kids. I think that's going to happen. It's very, we'll talk about this in a couple weeks, but I want you to think about this into the next show. Are they playing with house money? Maybe, maybe not. But anyway, thank you all for your comments and your interaction. Love talking Rangers hockey with you guys. This hour has gone by like it's 5 minutes. Sorry for the quick tech difficulty. We figured that out. I got to untighten this wire here. We will see you again. Again, follow the Facebook page. I'll be announcing shows there when we're going to do them. Hopefully, we can see a couple of you tomorrow night on the Sports Box NHL Trade Deadline recap. Again, I am Brian Attard on BlueTruth. Appreciate the time. We'll see you again soon.